What do you think would happen if you believed in evolution only? You're human, you've got purpose in life, you're taught there's no purpose, you didn't arrive for any reason, and then eventually you're going to die. What are you going to do?
You mean if I lived this evolution out for
Yeah,
real?
if you tried to live the evolution out for real.
Well, I've got no purpose, so I have to create my own purpose.
Yes,
but then
you will.
is my purpose any good? It might not be any good. I suppose if I was looking at it from an evolutionary perspective and I was honestly trying to live that out, then I don't even know if my purpose matters. And why should my purpose matter in the scheme of things? Because nothing that is made or that exists matters. So why should I even bother having a purpose that matters? Why should I even bother having a purpose? But yet there's something inside us that drives us to a purpose. Is this a will to survive? Well, that doesn't make any sense, because why should I survive when there's no purpose? And why should I even pass my genes on when there's no purpose? And why should I do any of this if there's no purpose?
No.
And so really and that's much too hard actually. So maybe why don't I just die?
Yeah.
So if I suppose if I honestly live that out, there's not much like that goes suicidal. Actually, I wonder if that's why so many young people are ending in this situation, because we're told we don't matter. We're told we don't have any purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're
You're
told
a mote
that there's
in
no
the
point.
universe, and there's no purpose, and there's no one who loves you, no one created you. If you're lovable, someone might love you, but you've got to do the work to get loved, to be loved.
But that's not my purpose, again,
no.
because then I'm just trying to win somebody else's affection. But then what's that going to get me in the long run? Nothing.
And what sort of fruit do we see in people's lives?
Yeah, I suppose that's what we're doing. But yet we don't, like people who believe evolution, when I've talked to them, they're still alive.
Yeah, they are still alive.
And also they often want to have a purpose.
Yep.
Like people who want to save the environment, genuinely, people who want to look out for other people. They want to do it because it's good, because it's right, but there's no basis for them to do that. Why are they doing this?
Well, maybe that's because people have to give worth to something. They have to worship something. And giving worth is the thing basically that you focus on. We have to focus on something, otherwise we're not able to function all over the place. And so what we land on is what we give worth to, which is what we worship. And human beings have to worship something. Now, mostly, if we had to invent something, we'd invent the biggest. Now, we like to have the best, the best celebrity, someone who's bigger or grander or got more power or something. We go for something bigger and bigger.
Why? Why do we worship this?
Why do we worship? It's funny because we're purpose-driven. If there's a purpose, you have to keep going towards the purpose, but you want to find the right purpose, the best purpose. So when people start to look for spiritual things, they go, well, let me find the right or the best or the biggest.
Where did this concept of right or best or biggest come from? Because that's not survival either.
No, it's not either. It's not evolution. So there's a lot of interesting things in our culture at the moment where there was previously, a couple of hundred years ago, everybody had a creationist mindset. Then the long ages came in, and then the evolution came in, and then let's get rid of God, or there are many gods that came in. And we're sort of sitting in what we call the, it's the post-Christian era at the moment, where some of us had a bit of a Christian upbringing. There's certainly the laws were originally based on the idea of there is a God and you're accountable to him, and if you don't do the wrong thing, there will be trouble.
Also that we're made in the image of God, and therefore we have worth and purpose. That's where human rights come from in the first place.
Yeah,
you know, I've been
Christian,
to uni, and I asked, because they were talking about ethics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so just out of curiosity, I asked them where this all came from. And the best they could come to was there was a document that was signed with human rights. And I was like, well, why do we have human rights? And if it's survival of the fittest, why can't you kill another human to survive more than them? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And they didn't have any answers.
They don't have any answers.
Which is a problem, because that means that then we don't understand even where the moral system came from if we don't have the source of the moral system.
Exactly. And it breaks down.
Yep. Yep.
So we see people's lives become purposeless, and people do things either to avoid pain or give pleasure, and when it's too hard, they give up. And then we also have people who have this desire to do good.
Yeah.
And then they find something to do good with. And at the moment, I think we're seeing almost a concept of the greatest good is going to win over everything else. It's interesting that...
Where does that come from?
I don't know. It's very interesting that there's a one thing. Even the people who don't believe in anything religious, they go, well, this is the good that I think is right, and then they try and get rid of everybody else who doesn't agree with them, which is almost saying there is purpose. There is one thing. If it was random and it didn't matter, well, then we wouldn't be fighting. It wouldn't matter.
Yep.
But we fight over ideas because humans want the best, the right idea. Now, we might differ about what that is, but when people are arguing, they're saying, this is what I want, and another one says, this is what I want. Mm-hmm. Why do we want anything anyway? If it's just evolution, why would we have a want?
Yeah.
No. So it's when you really try and say, okay, if I was completely honest as an evolutionist, you wouldn't be able to live in a society that we have.
What we've just been talking about, we've been looking at this through a evolutionary worldview, and it's really dark.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? What alternatives do we have?
Whatever alternative you're going to come up with doesn't come from yourself. It's got to come from outside. Because evolution says I am all that matters, and if I get to the point where I'm stuck in a pit, I'm going to need some help from above, basically.
Okay, so you can't go to other humans because they're on the same sort of...
Unless those other humans have been out of the pit and are going to help rescue you out of the pit.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay, so you're saying we need to seek help from something higher than us, something higher than our intelligence.
Yeah, and most of us have done that at some stage. Right. Most of us have been to the stage of going, well, I'm a mote in the universe and that's nothing and that's scary. Why should I even exist? Mm-hmm. And for a while we can be going and setting out our own goals and chasing after, fame, pleasure, money, celebrity, all sorts of things that people all doing good, or all sorts of things that we go looking for. But eventually we get to the end of those things. And throughout my life, my career, I've seen many people get to the point. People try drugs, and it keeps that means they don't have to face the pain. And eventually they say, and it's that wonderful question, and how's that working for you?
Oh.
Okay, and God said that to me once. It's basically, Di, you're running your own life here and it seems to be doing okay, but on the other hand, how's that really working out for you?
Oh, yeah.
And I see young people who have lost hope, and I say, you know what are you here for? What do you really want to do with your life? What's your legacy? If when you get to the end of your life, you looked back and what do you want people to say about you? What was the whole point? All we have to do with our life is trade our time for something. And what we like to do, as I said, I'm pretty sure we're goal-directed. We like a bargain. We like something good value for our time. And I say to young people, have you had a thought about what is your life going to count for? What do you want to build? And I think the best good feeling we ever get is when we achieve a goal that our tribe values. And we're doing something as a team, we become bigger than ourselves, greater than ourselves, because particularly if we've created something that goes on without us. And so we can be in a little one perspective here, and I'm myself, and that is so tiny. And if you don't agree with that, you're deluding yourself. You're dreaming. Then we say, I want to be part of something bigger. And then we find a tribe. And there are lots of tribes out there with lots of ideas. They say, come and join us and you will be happy. And then most people get to the point of going, well, but I'm going to die at some point. What happens then?
Yeah.
Now, if it's an evolution, it's basically, I don't know there's a God. I know there's not a God. When I die, who cares? I don't know. Well,
that's a big gamble.
That is a big gamble. On the other hand, if they go looking, the interesting thing is you look at your brain and you go, this was actually designed by the most super intelligent personality we could even imagine. And for purpose, for communication, for relationship, to be loved. Funny, I wonder if he has a phone number. Yep. And yet most people get to the point of crying out to God and they go, hello, is there anybody up there?
Yep.
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 And what we tend to find is if people really mean it, something happens. you and I have heard many stories of people who got to the end of themselves, which is, they say, that's where, when you're at the end of your rope, that's when God steps in. But he is not a bully. He won't step in until you want him. And if you don't want him, he will say, fine, I'm knocking on the door, but, I'm not going to invade. You don't want me. Mm-hmm. He wanted to create children who would love him and be part of his creative endeavour, not robots.
Right.
Now, a robot starts somewhere, doesn't matter where it's going, it doesn't need to know where it's going. Humans, we start somewhere, we won't go anywhere unless we have some concept of where we're going.
Right.
Which is in the image of the designer. Mm-hmm. And generally what I say to people is ask. Ask Jesus, literally.
Thanks, Di. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed it. So you're basically saying that if people don't want to know about God, it's okay.
Be kind to them.
You can let them be.
Yeah.
But if they do want to know about God, we need to give them some options that they can look into to see the reason why we believe what we believe and if it's a valid process to consider. And so we've got this magazine here.
Yep.
I'll just hold it up so people can see.
Yeah.
It's Creation Magazine. Can you tell me what you were saying earlier about this magazine and how it impacted you?
Okay. So I started off by rejecting what I saw was religion in a church. Then I became an evolutionist and I believed all this stuff, and then I thought there must be something more, and I went looking for what is the supernatural thing. Mm-hmm. And then I was surprised to meet Jesus. I really wasn't expecting, was a bit ticked off to find out he was who he was. Then I found out he wasn't who I thought he was. However, coming from a scientific background, I assumed my friends would think I'd thrown my brains out, and I needed some evidence. And Creation Ministries, particularly the Creation magazine, is just brilliant. So I could see the evidence. So I then knew that evolution didn't exist. And I know someone who said, I've learnt too much about creation. I've learnt too much about the trucks you can drive through, the holes in the theory of evolution. Mm-hmm. I might wander away from God, but I can never disbelieve who he is. And that friend of mine came back, who had a Christian upbringing, learnt all this stuff, thoroughly knows creation versus evolution, and is now back, on fire for God, which is great. And you see the fruit of people's lives when they are back in, they're doing what they're meant to do, what they were created to do and to be, and they just thrive, and it's good. So Creation Magazine is worth having a look at. And look, if you've got friends who are interested, they might have a look, they might not. And if they do, that's great. And if they don't, that's their choice too, because they were made with free will by God who loves them.
Correct. Thank you so much, Di. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.